Good morning. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss fifth schedule of Indian Constitution, जिसे कि अनुसूचित एवं जनजातीय क्षेत्र के नाम से हम लोग जानते हैं हिंदी में। और शेड्यूल्ड एंड ट्राइबल एरियाज जो हैं हमारे संविधान के अनुच्छेद 244 यानी कि आर्टिकल 244 ऑफ इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में प्रावधान की गई है। सो आर्टिकल 244 in part 10 of Indian Constitution, we have this special system of administration for certain areas which are actually designated as scheduled areas, and there are also tribal areas. There is a provision for tribal areas also in 4 states. It is in the 6th schedule of Indian Constitution. 6th schedule में ये प्रावधान की गई है, ट्राइबल एरियाज के प्रावधान की गई है। जबकि शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज हैं ये करीब 10 राज्यों में देखने के लिए मिलते हैं। और therefore article 244 in part 10 of the Indian Constitution provides for this special system of administration for certain areas which are designated as scheduled areas and tribal areas. So fifth schedule of the Constitution actually deals with the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes in any states except 4 states, because there are 4 states in India's northeastern states like Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram, where you have this idea of this system of tribal areas which has been provided in the 6th schedule of India's constitution. So 6th schedule of constitution deals with the administration of tribal areas in the 4 northeastern states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Now, the main question is why this provision was made in Indian Constitution. We know that Indian society is a highly diverse society. We have large number of uh, tribal population in India. In other words, there are different types of tribes. For example, about 730 tribes in India, and this particular figure, that is 730 types of tribes in in India, is merely this is merely administrative categorization. The state, for the purpose of administrative convenience, has identified or tribes like this 730 tribes as scheduled tribes. This is for the purpose of administration, but there are other tribes also which are not classified as, or has not been classified as tribes in under this particular provision or by the administration or the government of India as such. So if you look into the population also, the population is over around 11 crores tribal population we have in India today, which is roughly around 9 percent of India's population. In terms of the largest tribes, we have Bhil tribe, which is the largest tribe. In fact, Madhya Pradesh has a large number of Bhil tribe population, uh, and in Madhya Pradesh itself, around 1.8 crores tribal population actually live. The second most populous in terms of number, uh, the second largest tribe is actually Gond tribe. So You have wheel in terms of number. MP has a large population. Then you have a tribe called Gond tribe, which is said to be second largest in terms of population. These regions are these regions are basically the regions where the tribes actually live for many generations, are basically mineral rich regions. They are resourceful regions. They are forest region, and therefore, despite having such resourcefulness in terms of natural resources, they are backward. They are not able to sort of benefit from such richness of the natural resources for a variety of reasons, and therefore uh, they are actually living in one of the in our sense they are living in one of the backward regions. They are supposed to be backwards, and therefore we have this classification also. I think the sixth schedule of the Indian Constitution is this, uh, which says that there should be tribal areas in 4 states. Why? Because these the tribals who are living in these 4 states are basically backward uh, population. They are yet to you know uh, mix with the mainstream population. Their lifestyle, their culture, their tradition are quite unique. For example, in Assam, Meghalaya, and Tripura, Mizoram, you have tribes which are still living in primitive style. So their you know economic life is also quite primitive, so they are outside the mainstream population. They are yet to mix with the or integrate it with the mainstream population. Anyway, let's come back to the fifth schedule of Indian Constitution, which we want to discuss today. जो फिफ्थ शेड्यूल ऑफ इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, ये बेसिकली शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज और शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स के कंट्रोल और एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के लिए बनाई गई हैं, जो कि भारत के अनुच्छेद संविधान के अनुच्छेद के 244 यानी कि 244 पार्ट 10 में उसको स्थान दी गई है. सो व्हाट इज दिस पर्टिकुलर schedule is talking about? We'll discuss briefly in this brief video lecture that what is this scheduled area, and this particular tribal area is such a bit. Uh, what are its key objectives of the fifth schedule? What are the schedule areas? What are the key administrative provisions? What are the land and resource management provisions, or what are the legislative and judicial oversight about these regions? What are the challenges they face in terms of implementation, etc., of these provisions? Then we'll talk a bit about what should be done, and then what are some of the successes or failures of the fifth schedule to in improving the conditions of the tribal population as such, and then the composition of tribal advisory councils, and also functions and responsibilities of the uh, tribal advisory uh, councils as such. So Article 244 in Part 3rd of Indian Constitution actually deals with uh, the administration and control of scheduled areas, and uh, you know and tribal uh, areas. So sixth schedule actually deals with tribal area, uh, right? So fifth schedule actually deals with the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes, right? This would be tribe. Uh, so fifth schedule actually deals with what? Administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled areas and scheduled tribes, right? So it seeks to actually protect tribal population from exploitation and ensure their socio-economic development. These provisions primarily address the uh, you know uh, uh, region with significant tribal population that require special state intervention. So these are some the backward regions, backward pockets of India where there is a need for the central government or the government or the state to intervene to improve their economic, uh, you know, uh, condition, their socio-economic conditions. So the purpose of having this fifth schedule in Indian Constitution is to improve their what uh, socio-economic uh, condition, or in other words, uh, it is also to safeguard the rights of the tribal communities, right, concerning their land, resources, and culture, right? But so far as uh, the uh, the conditions of the tribal populations are concerned, uh, they are the victim of the development model that the government of India has adopted over a period of time, right from India's independence. Because as I said in the beginning, at the outset of this video lecture, that the tribals actually live in some of the mineral rich, resource rich, forest regions, and the government actually uh, displaced them in the name of mining, in the name of building big development projects, uh, and also in the name of building big dams for generating hydroelectricity, etc. So so they are the victim of what the tribal population are victim, uh, not of the of the general population, rather they are victim of the development model that the state has adopted in the last uh, many decades. So it actually provides for certain safeguards for the tribal population because their culture is unique. uh, they have a unique custom, so therefore they are also vulnerable to exploitation, etc., and they are vulnerable to land alienation बिकॉज ज़मीन छीन लेना, राज्य के द्वारा छीन लेना, तो हम जानते हैं कि डेवलपमेंट के नाम में राज्य क्या करते हैं, ज़मीन छीन लेते हैं जनजातीय क्षेत्र में या ट्राइबल एरियाज में. But to prevent, there is a need to prevent exploitation also. They are vulnerable to sort of exploitation. So ensure equitable socio-economic development and prevent exploitation is one of the key objectives of this fifth schedule of India's constitution. It provides for a framework for, say, effective governance of the scheduled areas. So what is this scheduled area as such? The scheduled area is basically it is defined in Article 244 clause 1 of the constitution, 244(1) of India's constitution actually defines scheduled area, right? Areas declared as scheduled areas under Article 244(1) of the constitution. So what are the criteria then? How the state or the government actually declares a particular region as scheduled area? The government declares particular area as a scheduled area based on certain criteria. First of all, the uh, first region is predominantly tribal population above 50%, a region where there are more than 50% populations, or in other words, uh, predominantly tribal populated regions actually can be declared as a scheduled area, right? So based on their geographical nature, also based on their socio-economic underdevelopment, also a region can be declared as a scheduled area. But here the role of the president is very important. The president of India is empowered to declare, modify, rescind or delete scheduled areas in consultation with the governor of the concerned state. So it is the only area where the governor has also a very powerful role to play. It is the only area a governor in a state has a powerful role to play. It has lots of power without accountability. It is the only area which is also not the governor is not accountable at all for whatever he does. So this is an area of contestation so far as scheduled areas are concerned, and also the role of the governors of states are concerned. So the governor's power are actually significant in these areas. For example, the governor of a state uh, with scheduled areas can actually make regulations to prevent land alienation, and also to protect tribal population or tribal interest. So आप जानते हैं कि ज़मीन को, जो जनजातीय लोगों के ज़मीन को छीनने के बाद और ज़मीन से वंचित करने के विषय हम लोग कई बार सुनते हैं, और उनके जो हित हैं उनको सुरक्षित करना राज्य का जिम्मेदारी है। और ये जिम्मेदारी राज्य सरकार को नहीं बल्कि गवर्नर को दी गई है। ये पावर गवर्नर का है कि ट्राइबल लोगों को या जो ट्राइब्स हैं उनको लैंड एलिनेशन से बचाएं और प्रोटेक्ट करें उनके हित को, यानी कि द गवर्नर शुड एक्चुअली prevent what land alienation and protect the tribal interest as such. Governor are actually required to submit an annual report also to the administration of these areas to the president, right? Governors क्या करते हैं, एक annual report राष्ट्रपति को सौंपते हैं या सबमिट करते हैं, but the president can ask for a report anytime, right? And the governors are actually under obligation to submit such reports report to the president of India. So so far as what are the important features as such of fifth schedule of Indian Constitution. The first thing is the declaration of certain areas as scheduled areas. So the president is empowered to sort of declare an area to be scheduled area. He can also increase or decrease its area or alter its boundary lines also, or even delete such designation or make fresh order for such redesignation on an area in consultation with the governor of the state concerned. So the president has this power to sort of declare area as scheduled areas. The second thing is the what happens to the executive power of the state and center. जो राज्य और केंद्र सरकार के कार्यकारी शक्तियों का क्या होता है इन इलाकों में, क्या वो लागू होते हैं या नहीं होते हैं. द एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर ऑफ ए स्टेट एक्चुअली एक्सटेंड्स टू शेड्यूल एरियाज, राइट. ये जो राज्य सरकार के जो एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर हैं वो लागू होता है इन शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज में, बट द गवर्नर हैज़ ए स्पेशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी रिगार्डिंग सच एरियाज. परंतु गवर्नर का एक स्पेशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होता है उन इलाकों का, यानी कि ट्राइबल एरियाज़ का, यानी कि शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज़ का एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को लेकर. सो ही हैज़ टू सबमिट ए रिपोर्ट टू द प्रेसिडेंट regarding the administration of such areas annually, as I said earlier in this lecture, or whenever so required by the president. So the executive power of the center extends to giving direction to the states regarding the administration of such areas, right? So this is the executive power of the state and center so far as the scheduled areas are concerned. Another very important feature of this provision is this, tribes advisory council. In scheduled areas, it is mandatory to have tribes advisory council. Each state having scheduled areas has to establish a tribe advisory council. जितने भी शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज हैं, अनुसूचित जो जनजातीय क्षेत्र हैं या अनुसूचित क्षेत्र हैं, शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज हैं, उन इलाकों में क्या करना है, ट्राइब्स एडवाइजरी काउंसिल यानी कि TAC गठन करना मैंडेटरी है, राइट? सो इट इज़ टू कंसिस्ट ऑफ 20 मेंबर्स. इसमें करीब 20 मेंबर होते हैं और उसका 3/4 जो मेंबर हैं, 3/4 जो मेंबर होते हैं, 3/4 जो मेंबर होते हैं उसमें ट्राइब्स होते हैं, यानी कि ट्राइबल मेंबर्स होते हैं. So 3/4 of whom are to be the representatives of the scheduled tribes in the state as legislative assembly. और वो मुख्यतः कहाँ से आते हैं जो सदस्य? वो सदस्य मुख्यतः राज्य के legislative assembly के सदस्य होते हैं. A similar council can also be established in a state having scheduled tribes, but not scheduled areas as such, if the president so directs. परंतु ये जो ट्राइब्स एडवाइजरी काउंसिल का निर्माण अन्य अन्य राज्यों में भी किया जा सकता है. अभी करीब 10 राज्यों में देखने के लिए मिलते हैं, यानी कि 10 राज्यों में ये जो शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज देखने के लिए मिलते हैं और 4 राज्य हैं जहाँ पर कि ट्राइबल एरियाज देखने के लिए मिलते हैं, जो कि मैं आपको बताया. आसाम, मेघालय, त्रिपुरा और मिजोरम में देखने के लिए मिलते हैं, जो कि 6th शेड्यूल के अंतर्गत आता है. अब प्रश्न ये है कि कौन से कानून इन इलाकों में लागू होते हैं, यानी कि जो लॉ एप्लीकेबल टू शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज, यानी कि लॉ एप्लीकेबल टू शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज. The governor is empowered to direct that any particular act of parliament or state legislature doesn't apply to the scheduled areas or apply with specified modification and exceptions. तो ये गवर्नर देखते हैं कि क्या संसद के द्वारा निर्मित या विधानसभा के द्वारा निर्मित कानून कैसे लागू किए जाएंगे इन इलाकों में, शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज में क्या प्रावधान किए गए हैं, आखिर कानून किस प्रकार से लागू किए जा सकते हैं, क्या उनको मॉडिफाई करके किए जा सकते हैं या फिर एज इट इज़, यानी कि कानून को उन इलाकों में लागू किए जा सकते हैं. यह रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी गवर्नर ऑफ द स्टेट का है, यानी कि द गवर्नर ऑफ स्टेट इज़ एम्पावर्ड टू एक्चुअली डायरेक्ट दैट any particular act of parliament or state legislature does not apply or apply to a scheduled areas as such, either with modification or with some exceptions. He can also make regulations for the peace and good government of a scheduled area after consultation with the tribe advisory council. गवर्नर भी कुछ सुशासन के लिए, यानी कि गुड गवर्नेंस के लिए इन इलाकों में ट्राइबल एडवाइजरी काउंसिल TAC के साथ मिलकर कुछ नया प्रावधान या गुड गवर्नेंस के इनिशिएटिव इंट्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं. सच रेगुलेशन में प्रोहिबिट और रेस्ट्रिक्ट द ट्रांसफर ऑफ लैंड बाय और among the members of scheduled tribes, regulating the allotment of land to the members of the scheduled tribes, regulate the business and money laundering in relation to scheduled areas. Also, a regulation may may repeal or amend any act of parliament or state legislature which is applicable to a scheduled area, but all such regulations require the consent of the president, right? So this is very very important uh, provisions for the for the tribal population living in what in scheduled areas. So union government has the authority to modify or even annul governors made regulation in scheduled areas. पार्लियामेंट का तो शक्ति है ही, गवर्नर कुछ भी करते हैं उसमें सुधार ला सकते हैं, उसको क्या कर सकते हैं, मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं या डिलीट कर सकते हैं। दूसरा विषय है कि क्या न्यायपालिका का भी क्या उनके ऊपर उन इलाकों के ऊपर क्या है ओवरसाइट होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए, जुडिशियल ओवरसाइट होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए, यानी कि जुडिशियल स्क्रूटिनी होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए, ये प्रश्न भी आते हैं। तो रेगुलेशंस और पॉलिसीज़ जो फिफ्थ शेड्यूल के अंतर्गत आते हैं ये जुडिशियल रिव्यू के अंतर्गत आते हैं। सो रेगुलेशंस एंड policies under the fifth schedules are subject to judicial review to ensure their constitutionality, but due to a variety of reasons actually the safeguards that have been provided in fifth schedule of India's constitution is actually uh, not been able to properly being executed, right? So they are not properly being been executed, and they have not been as effective as they should have been in improving their socio-economic and other uh, areas. So there are also challenges, right? uh, there are also challenges with regard to with regard to the implementation of the provisions made under the scheduled areas. For example, the challenges are at least with regard to TACs, because tribal advisory councils should have been very active or proactive in ensuring the overall development of such areas. But we see in practice that the role of the TACs are very weak. They have limited authority, and they have dependence on the state government, which actually reduce their effectiveness of in terms of taking initiatives for the empowerment of the tribal groups living in scheduled areas. So this is first weakness that we see, that is weakness of or weak role of the tribal advisory councils. The second thing is that despite having a constitutional provision under Article 244 Part 10 of India's Constitution, the scheduled areas actually the tribal people living in these scheduled areas actually are facing the challenges of land alienation despite constitutional safeguards. Instances of land encroachment and non-tribal accusations actually persist in these regions. The third problem is that since they live a very primitive type of lifestyle, in our perspective, they lack awareness about the law. So many tribal communities remain unaware of their rights under the fifth schedule, because this fifth schedule actually provides some special rights for the tribal population of these regions. Then what we should do to improve their conditions? The first thing the government should actually think about is to empower the TACs, that is tribal advisory councils, with greater autonomy and decision making powers. Also there should be monitoring mechanism, right? There is no monitoring mechanism as such, that what is happening to all sort of policies and programs of the government. they should be monitored as such. So there is a need to strengthen monitoring mechanisms to prevent land alienation and exploitation of the tribal communities. The next thing is about enhancing awareness program for the tribal communities regarding their rights and benefits available to them, and also promote some sort of inclusive development policies tailored around specific needs of the tribal population. We are not able to sort of address their concerns. We have to understand what they need. We know what the government or state wants to give them, right? But we have to understand what they need, right? So there is this cultural or this ontological gap here. uh, then you have fifth schedule actually, as I said, remains a vital safeguard for the tribal population, for the tribal rights, ensuring their socio-economic development, but effective implementation is needed. Also there is a need to review periodically what to address their challenges and and to fulfill their objectives. So the many would say that yes, there are many failures of fifth schedule, that is weak implementation. uh, then you have limited role of the tribal advisory councils. Then there is widespread land alienation or land encroachment, including displacement of the tribal populations. Then you have deficit of awareness among the tribal regarding their own rights and benefits. And there are also challenges of what governance, because misuse of governors discretionary power and lack of accountability is a serious issue that we need to actually address. Then uh, what are then the successes of the fifth schedule? Is it that it has not achieved anything? It would be wrong to say that the fifth schedule of India's constitution and scheduled areas are of no use for the tribal at all. They might be some sort of uh, they might be providing some sort of benefits for the tribal population as well. We cannot discard that there are certain benefits for the tribal population living in scheduled areas, because this particular provision is to safeguard them from exploitation, for their welfare, for their socio-economic development, etc. So what are the basic successes of the scheduled areas as such? What are the basic uh, uh, successes of this fifth schedule of India's constitution as such? Uh, the success of fifth schedule, first of all, is the protection of tribal land and resources. And the problem of land alienation, as I said, is very very serious. But if this provision would not have been there, I think this land alienation would have been very very alarming, very serious, right? So what are the successes of the what are the successes of the fifth schedule? The first is about protection uh, of the tribal land and resources, safeguarding the tribal land from alienation, and restrict acquisition by the non-tribals. There is a large scale encroachment on the tribal lands in these areas, and also there is a large scale displacement of the tribal population in these areas because of the state development initiatives. So they are displaced without adequate rehabilitation as such, or without compensation as such, because they live in tribal areas. They don't have their own patta as such of the land they have been cultivating for generation also. So this is a serious problem. So this is, I would say, is a success, some sort of success in terms of protection of tribal land and resources, even though this is a very serious area of contestation. The second area where I would like to say is a success is the promotion of the self-governance. At least the government could recognize the need for self-governance. They need to recognize that there is a unique tribal culture, and there is a need for the protection of their cultural rights as well. So empowering tribal communities through provisions like tribal advisory councils and governors oversight is one of the very very important contribution of the fifth schedule of India's constitution. The next one is, of course, socio-economic development, right? So lots of problem we see in these regions are are very serious. They are very very unique to that particular regions also. So socio-economic development, facilitating special policies and schemes for tribal welfare and development in scheduled areas is one of the area of success, even though they are comparatively not developed uh, socio-economically in comparison with non-scheduled areas. Uh, the success of providing legal safeguards also, at least we provide this particular schedule provides what legal safeguards, establishes constitutional mechanisms to prevent exploitation and protect tribal rights as such. So this is therefore very very important. In terms of composition of the tribal uh, composition of the tribal advisory councils, it is composed of members from the legislative assembly of the state, and 75% members must belong to tribal scheduled tribes in states with scheduled areas, right? So governor actually heads as of the council, and it oversees the functioning of these TACs, tribal areas councils as such. So this is the basic fundamental provisions that has been made under the Indian Constitution for the scheduled tribes in scheduled areas. I hope we could discuss adequately about the fifth schedule of Indian Constitution, Article 244, Part 10 of India's Constitution. If you have any further questions and queries, you can ask me for further discussion. So I stop here.